and welcome to the Laughing Monkey Music Show. Today I'm Johnette Napolitano. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you, Sean. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I want to thank you for taking time. I know you're calling from your home in Joshua Tree, and you have from what I hear, you have a nice studio, I believe, and
Well,
a sanctuary sort of now for horses. So
it's a
let's start there.
barn. It's a barn. It's a barn, and half of it is well, hay is a really good soundproofing thing. So half of it is where the horse's hay is stored, and so that's a good thing. And then the other half is soundproof for me, and that's where my drums are. And I can go out there and do drums or anything that I can't do in here in the house. But I have my Scarlett little preamps set up out there, and I have them set up in here. So I go back and forth, and it's very seasonal. Everything when you work with the elements, which is what people used to do. There's times a year that are good for some things, and there's times a year that are good for other things. And here is like I'm taking a couple of months off from the podcast because I do that very early in the morning, the Coffee and a Card podcast, which I've been doing since I think 2016. And it's a tarot card kind of exploratory learning kind of experience every morning. And I really enjoy it. And I'm usually done and posted by 9 a.m. But in the summer, I need those hours, in the summertime, if I'm going to get outside and do any of the work I need to do and spend time with the horses or whatever, then I've got to be out there. I'm up by between 4:30 and 5 every morning, and then I'm in again, by 9 or 10, and now I'm down until 4. And now then I'll go out, and depending, it's going to hit 100 the next couple of days. It's been a great week. It's been in the 80s. This is nothing. So it's been
Oh,
really, really good. But then in September, I'll pick the podcast up again because then it'll be dark until whatever, until 7 a.m. or something.
yeah.
And so I'll be up and they won't see me. I have to sneak around because if the horses sees the lights on in the house, then they'll want me to come out and so I get a few hours in the morning. I have to lurk around. So it's just working with the seasons, and I have to have the AC on. So I can't really cut vocals or anything with an open
Yeah.
mic when there's AC on and fans going. So everything, it keeps it interesting, I guess. It's
That is quite
natural.
a bit. And I imagine sound wise though, depending on if it's too hot or cold, may affect your voice, the recording sound, and the instrument, like you're doing
Very
drums
much.
outside,
Very,
which could actually
very
apply
much.
good and or bad to your song.
Oh no, the AC is the worst
Oh yeah,
for your voice, and I have to, it's a drag when I'm on tour or I'm in a van with other, with the band and crew or whoever's driving us around in any given city because I cannot have AC on in the vehicle. And so it'll be a problem. And I in a hotel they used to, they don't you're not they don't you can't open your windows anymore if you're above the third floor or something because they're
yeah.
afraid you're going to commit suicide or whatever. So I have to shut it off, and sometimes you can't because it's a central system. And yeah, it's only, it's not a guitar string, it's a voice. I mean, Aretha Franklin used to have it so cold that other people complain and stuff like that, but it's just like you can't sing if it's cold. Your teeth chatter and your vocal cords just won't vibrate. So it is really difficult. We don't mean to be difficult, us divas, but that's just the way it is,
Well,
and people
that's a
can't
fair
play
one.
either.
You know, that's a
Yeah,
fair
it
one. It's not
is,
like it's brown M&Ms. I mean, it's just a performance thing.
Yeah,
Your voice
no,
is
I'm
not
not
like a
that. I'm
guitar.
not that.
That's that's so
Believe
different.
me, I'm not that bad. Yeah, I'm not that bad at all. But it's just. And matter of fact, if you remember the Obama inauguration
Yeah.
in front of the White House, it was so cold in the morning, and Aretha sang, and Yo-Yo Ma was playing cello, I think, and nobody's hands worked, and nobody could sing, and nobody. I think they ended up overdubbing quite a lot of that performance with everybody. But that happens a lot. That's very, very common. It's very cold. Some arenas, if you play in arenas, their ice rinks covered over.
Right.
depending on where you are, like in Toronto or Canada, whatever, and that's hell on the guitars on stage and all the instruments.
Yeah.
They'll start and they're all tuned up, and then you get up there to play, and especially if you're some big shot band and you have like 7 or 8 or 12 guitars up there, and they all go out of tune. If they're under the AC or if it's cold, it's one of the first world problems that we have.
Yeah. I love to use that phrase to myself. I'm like, every time I get to go complain, I'm like, that's a first world problem because I can just look at online and see
Absolutely.
everything is worse
I'm glad.
and go, I go, well,
Everything is worse.
yeah, I always think, well, at least I'm not taking a canary into a coal mine every day for a job.
Oh
Like, I
yeah,
don't have to, yeah.
exactly. It
I'm like, my
exactly.
life is fine. My life is fine.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm very appreciative. But no, but when you talk about sound, though, I mean, that's just like the beginning of sound. I mean, a stage, they're tuning up for an empty house. Then people go in there, changes the sound. But if you're a big band, that's what your roadie's for. They're gonna have to hustle.
That's
If you're
well,
that point.
no, 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 no. If you're serious, I know there's plenty of people in big bands that
No,
don't
I
like
wouldn't.
people to
No,
touch their stuff. I
no.
know there was a famous story about I know a drummer that for instance, never polished his cymbals ever, ever, ever because it changes the way they sound. And some guy thought he was doing a great job and cleaned the cymbals one day, and he got fired for it.
Oh,
So it's
ouch.
kind of
Yeah, I
like
was just
you
joking because I
just
actually know some
yeah,
roadies.
I know.
I like to tease them like you tease drummers.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a running joke
They used to
about that.
piss me off so bad.
No
If
what?
I came in and we go do an interview or go to dinner or something, and I'd come back in and my fucking somebody in the crew was up there playing my bass after
Oh,
the strings are on it and stuff. You just sweat all over my damn bass, and
oh.
I don't need that. That's just yeah, I know. That's once again first world rock star
But
problems.
well, that
Stupid.
as a
And
musician,
people
you don't
probably
touch
don't
it.
even know the difference. No,
No,
don't
but
fucking
just
touch my
touching it,
stuff, man.
it's like you have a coffee cup at work. If you're the same thing. You come
Thank
home, you
you.
go to work, you come
Thank
back,
you.
someone's using your coffee cup. They're like, and they may have washed it. You're like, I don't care. It's just my few things I
No,
have.
thank you.
You
Thank you
know,
for breaking it down.
But I'm saying, but it's that simple. It's like it's more. Some part it might be symbolic gesture where it's just like it's just my one thing, and just respect my space. You know,
No,
and
it actually does change. It actually does change
oh
the
yeah,
sound.
the little sweat will change it, and
People
you have to change.
aren't
Yeah,
that.
yes,
Yeah, so
I
just I understand that like you have to justify your job. All respect in the world to you, man, but don't come on stage unless I have a problem. Like just sit there in the dark until I have a problem. I will look over at you and you will know I have a problem, and I will want you at my feet scuttling around like a rodent in an alley, like plugging shit in or unplugging shit in. I hate that. I notoriously hate that. It's distracting. I'm trying to sing, and all of a sudden, something out of the corner of my eye is doing something, and it's just it
right,
really, really, yeah. I don't mind being a bitch about it because it's fucking annoying. It's distracting, So even if somebody's having a conversation on the side of the stage, I can see you, and sometimes I can probably even hear you. So just go away. I don't care if it's my manager. I don't care who the hell it is. It's just like just go the hell away or don't let me see you. It's very
right,
distracting. And you're trying to be in your zone. You're trying to feel whatever it is you're trying to feel. You're trying to put out. And I can't do that if I'm hyper aware of everything that's going on me around me at the same time, which you should be, by the way. I mean, because I'm also worried about not necessarily first world problems, like somebody coming in and shooting the place up because it fucking
oh
happens.
yeah, it happens
If
a
they're,
lot.
I get threats, I have stalkers, I have all kinds of crazy people out there, and I need to look down and see the fuck is there.
Hmm.
So it's that's one of the reasons, to be honest, that I really don't. It's not as enjoyable anymore to go out, to go out and play. It just isn't. It hasn't been the same since cell phones, since smartphones. It just hasn't been the same because where there used to be this connection, you'd look out and you'd see faces and you'd know if you were getting to people or not, and you'd really feel,
Right.
it was an exchange of energy, and that energy, you put the minute you put up a phone in front of your face, and I look out and see that. I know that there's something in between you and me. And I know that you're not being in this moment. You're recording it and saving it for some other time. And that's really something that I understand. I mean, well, that's what makes me, old. But but it really is it really distracts some people, and it really bothers a lot of people. It's not just me, but it's kind of like this is what it is nowadays, and people are used to it. And if you're, at the point where I was really kind of going to get into it, I was going to lean into it. I was going to say, okay, this is what we do. We do a new song we've never done before. Everybody's going to put up their cameras. Everybody's going to record it, and this is
That's the
going to be
worst part.
really great. And I couldn't get the band on board with it. I just couldn't get them. It was going to be great because you use it to your advantage. It's simply another art form if you know how to do
Right.
it.
Well,
I love
I think
technology. I'm a freak for it. The
the
tail
challenge
shouldn't
that
wag the dog.
is it's also though. I mean, how you hold it up? Because I've shot things, but I'll do it and the band knows it, and I'll put something together with them. But even
Yeah.
when I do that with their permission, or I do it whatever, because I don't want to just like whatever. But I hold it low, and I'm actually watching the show. So
Yeah,
like
yeah.
people that
There's
hold it
ways to
above
do
you
it,
and they're not
right?
doing that. That makes it crazy. Like, and I usually have permission from the band because I'm doing something with them, even if it's just a weird fun thing with my thing for the interview for the show and stuff. But it's different on that level. But I get the distraction also for artists. So I think
Well, and
there's
I
such a
get
weird
as a
fine line.
kid, as a kid at a show, as a fan, I get that too. I
Well,
completely
think about
get
all the
that.
bootlegs
You
of
know,
Led Zeppelin. If somebody didn't do that, who the hell's now? When you do that, think about who got in there for the Sex Pistols videos, those big VHS things, the 3 packs hanging off
yeah,
your
yeah,
arms.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah,
how
yeah,
are they
yeah,
sneaking
yeah,
that in now?
yeah.
I look back, I'm like, how were they doing that? I mean, when somebody had to do that, now we have that footage. There's footage out there that we've never would have seen and experienced in our life if somebody didn't break the rules and stick a camera there.
Yeah, I can appreciate. Hey, I can appreciate that. I can appreciate that.
So there's
It's
somebody
just, it's
that's always
just.
a weird thing to be on each side of it. Like I do it and I'm like, I don't like doing it. So it's like a back and forth with myself even. you know.
Well, yeah. I mean, you do it for one song, or do it for one
Yeah.
song at the end, or do it for a couple of songs or whatever. But I mean, just for me, and since I'm the one speaking, I'm only speaking for myself, obviously, but for me, that's my good time. Touring is no fun. Okay, it's just not fun. It used to be a long time ago, before there was all this stuff, and before, frankly, in the early days when I could walk around, I'd hit a city because I love to explore. For me, touring was more about even the traveling than it was about the playing. It was about, oh my God, I've never been to New Orleans. Oh wow, I've never been to London. I've never been here. I've never been there. And I was really into traveling. So I was into
Yeah.
seeing everything, the whole country. I was into seeing the country. I was into, Canada. I was just into seeing things. But the more popular that we got, it got to be a worry, because then there were stalkers, and then there were people following you around, and they were expecting you in town, and then you're in a bus, and then they see the bus and they follow the bus. Once again, first world problems. I'm sorry, but it's my story. And so
Well,
I
it's a
wasn't
safety
as
issue.
free to go
That's
around.
different. That's not even a first world. That's just like creepy because it happens to, unfortunately, mostly to women, and it
That's
happens
true.
to anybody. But I'm saying that's not a first world problem. That's just like the stalking. And that's just
It
messed
is,
up.
yeah.
I
It
mean, you were
is. It
elevated in the
is. But for
limelight
me,
from people, but because of what you did. But it's still awful.
but
That's just
the point is, though, the stage part is that's why I'm out there.
yeah,
At this point in time, in the last 20, 30 years, that's why I'm out there. Is I'm out there to play, and I'd love to play. So if my stage time isn't fun, then why am I out there? I mean, I don't want to do, if I wanted to do a job that I didn't enjoy, I could do a whole lot of things, but I want to enjoy playing. I want to enjoy performing. I want to enjoy making music, and I want to be good at it. And that's the only time that makes it really worthwhile,
hmm
I mean, you could always kill time during the day, but it's also a matter of physical energy, that has to be saved for the stage. And so I can't really talk to people like I used to, and I can't do, and I don't, I really, I take it seriously, and it just really all that really ran away, after, for some reason, after a while. So I'm not complaining. I just needed to sit back and go, like, why am I out here again? And if it's not really to actually leave my body, and to really make it a religious experience, because that's what it is for me. I take it, it's really a holy thing to me. at the risk of sounding, dramatic or whatever. It's a God experience for me, and it's channeling, and it's just amazing. It's just like it's like reaching up and touching heaven. It's just like
Hmm.
it's actually that strong in my soul. And if I'm not doing that, then why am I out there? If I don't, if I'm just, just spouting off the music, just and not feeling it, and not, really, getting into it, if I'm not there, if my soul isn't just leaving my body, then I'm kind of like not really. I know that I'm not 150%, and I want to be that. That's what it is for me. And if it's not fun for me, I kind of resent it being fun for anybody else. I'm a very complicated bitch.
Let me say so. You're not, but you're also, there's different types of music, and your lyrics are interpersonal, and they're strong, and they can be empowering, or they can bring up parts of your life. So you're a different type of musician. Also, you're not a party band performer. So I mean, for you not to be taken out of the moment doesn't make sense, because it's that's not who they're seeing. That's not the music they're hearing. I mean, you have catchy songs, but it's not the same as some kind of dance band. You know what I mean? Where you can have insanity.
Yeah, no,
You are a
yeah, I
different kind
hear
of
you.
performer, so
I
your
hear
fans
you.
should understand that. People that go to your show, you know what you're getting when you go to the show. Like, what were you going for? Just like, oh, I was expecting bop from Johnette. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not putting a dig towards them,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
those guys are hard workers too. What I'm saying is, it's just a different style of music that you're
yeah,
doing it,
yeah, yeah.
and that's kind of fair to expect at this point in your life. You're also not the first time traveling around the world. Like me, the first time, I would love it. I'd be like, eat my way around the world. Oh God, you know.
That's a problem too.
But that would be my problem, right? Be able to dairy. I would never be able to
That's a
sing, because I'd be
problem.
like, the
Yeah.
cheese, all the cheeses of the world. I'd be like, oh my God. So
Oh, please. Yeah,
as I get
that
as
was a
I get
problem
older,
too.
right? I don't want to even go across town sometimes to go. You know what I mean? To pick up a prescription. So like, I can imagine being on tour as you've gotten older, and like you've already done it once before, and then it's just the
It's
performance,
hard.
and the
Yeah,
magic's kind of
it's
out of
not as
all the
easy
other
as it
stuff.
was.
Right.
I'm
And
like,
just sleeping and
per
performing after sleeping in a weird place, and your diet's always affected.
yeah, your diet is always affected, and it's just like you don't, being that regulated is really difficult physically. I could at one point I could look at an itinerary and tell you exactly what time I would have breakfast 2 months from now. I can't eat when they serve you dinner like before a show. I'm supposed to go
Yeah,
up and sing in a full stomach. I can't do that. So
I would
unless I
throw up.
eat it like, early in the morning, and that's the only time, that's the only meal I'll get all day long. I can't eat
Really?
before I go to bed, because then, plenty of times I've come off tour 10 pounds heavier than I started, plenty of times, so that's not a good look,
They're
so
like, how
it's,
was the tour? You're like,
but,
delicious.
oh yeah, can't you tell? It's like, sure, especially Europe, because the food is
Yeah.
insane. So I'm like, yeah, I mean, I just had to talk about, France, the best cheese ever, three
Oh,
bottles of wine, so I mean, it's just, yeah, it was great. It's great, but I can't do that now. That's for damn sure. And then, they're just what stage time used to be, especially when you go, we go to somewhere like South America, which is fantastic, and you go to Brazil or go to Peru, and like, well, we just get, what time are we on? You're on at 11. 11, for fuck's sake, that's like a whole day away. I'm like, by 11 p.m. I've been asleep for 6 hours. So
right.
kind of it was, so it was getting harder. It was getting harder. It was getting a lot harder for sure.
And I think one of the things you said a long time ago, and it always makes me question, and I love this because you're so open, is that, and I ask this sometimes with performers, when you write a song and it's very personal, and like you've said, like when you wrote, it was like Joey on the whole album, like you put so much out there. It's, I think you was quote said you felt like you're naked, and then you have to sing it every night and
Yeah.
perform it, and then at a certain point, do you think writing those songs and your soul song, because you're very personal, but you wrote those afterwards, did it change your writing to how much you'd want to put out there? And because to me, I think it would be so hard to
Yes.
relive things over and over again. I mean, they're great
It's
songs because they're
interesting.
so
It's
powerful,
interesting
but
that you mentioned that. It is. It's interesting that you mentioned that, because that would be like method acting. There was, I saw yet another, which I hadn't seen before, and I thought I saw them all. Another Marlon Brando biography recently, like a week ago, and I thought
there's a
I'd seen
lot
them
of
all,
them.
but
There's a lot
this
of them.
I know, but I thought I'd seen them all, but this one was really great. And when
Oh yeah,
he made Last Tango in Paris,
Hmm.
and he said, "I will never." And they made it really fast, and it was interesting the timeline at the time of his life that he made that movie. And he said he would never do that again. That he would never open up in a film like he did that one, because he actually ad-libbed a lot of that stuff, and
Yeah.
especially the monologue when his wife is laying in a coffin and the director was talking about, or whoever was there was talking about, how there were just a couple of words from that monologue written on the wall behind the coffin so that he could look down and see it. But he didn't see, he never used the whole monologue. He just cued off a couple of those words, and what he drew on was his mother leaving him or something like that. And it's such an intense scene. And he is Brando.
Hmm.
But afterwards, he said he would never do that again. He would never open up like that again. And I'm kind of like, lately, there's a couple of things I'm working on. I've got 10 tracks that I'm finishing up by fall to see what I'm going to do with probably a limited edition CD, because I like doing those.
Oh,
But
very cool.
yeah, but I like them. But I find that no, I don't really write that way. I don't really. Well, I'm in a different place. I'm actually a happy person now, which makes a huge
Yeah.
difference. I don't have anything to manufacture to be
Hooray.
miserable about. Yeah, I mean, in spite of the fact that we haven't learned from our mistakes, and we have a completely demented fucking old man in office that every time he has a
Oh,
hissy fit, he just wants to drop a bomb so bad, and he's been trying so hard to start a war, and he's finally
it's
started
happened.
one, but
Yeah, it's happened.
nobody else wants it. But that stuff has never, God is a bullet was one thing, LA was one thing, and I was very much on the streets all the time. I lived a different life. I was taking the bus, I was on the streets, I was in it. And
Doesn't it feel like
I'm
you're a different
very
person? Like
much.
I was another person at this point in your life? Like looking back, like when I look back at that age, and I was in a city going to college, if I'm not there anymore in music school, I feel like I was a different person, and I can't almost can't relate to that person.
I
Do you feel
was.
that?
I was a different person. And if you want to really get, get down in it,
Yeah.
if it's true that, and it is true that your body completely regenerates its cells or something every 7 years or whatever, then you are actually, physically a different person
Mm,
altogether. And you've completely metabolized into something different, and you're not the same person. And why? And if you were, you'd be an idiot. If you're not growing, you're dying.
right.
If you haven't learned and changed, then nothing depresses me more than seeing somebody who hasn't changed one iota since high school or since 1980 or
Yeah.
82. It's like, you have to have change. You have to have absorbed some experience that has, it's called growing up, and nobody wants to do it. I mean, but it happens, it fucking happens to you, when your parents pass away, when you lose people, when you've maybe even had a new person in your life, when you've
Hmm.
birthed a new baby or something. You're not the same person. I mean, essentially, there are parts of you that are the same. I still have fun, but I don't, I don't smoke weed anymore, and I, maybe have a bottle of wine once every couple of months, but I can't really do that much more either, because I don't like myself when I do it. I find myself sliding back into the same unhappy place that I was for the
Right.
first quarter of my life or half of my life, easily. And it's just in the last few years that I've really found peace, that I've just like, wow, I actually did good. I've always wanted a horse. I'm looking out the window, my horses are on the porch, and one and a half horses, because one of them's a mini version of the other one. And I've been
Thanks.
through
Thanks for
it
clearing
out
up because
here.
I had an awful visual
It's
of that half a horse.
Yeah, one and a half horses is what I say. I have a mini Appaloosa who's relatively new. We just got her, and True I've had her since she was 5, and she's 25, 23 now.
Holy
So
moly!
we go back a long way. Yeah, we go back. It's the longest relationship I've ever had, but we go
And the
back a
best one
long
probably too,
way.
right? The most
And
honest, no lying.
and
You know, animals
uh-huh,
are the best. The best, no lying. It's a very honest
the
relationship. It's pure
best,
love. Like this, my dog is.
the
There's
best.
no lying,
My
no faking. You're exactly as you want.
That's right. And they're always here, and they ground me. They
Hmm.
ground me. As much as I miss picking up and jumping on a plane and, oh, I'm going to go to London and visit somebody, and just, we're going to go whatever. I can't do that anymore. I can't, and I'm deliberate about that. because otherwise, I would get, no matter where I was, there I am. Do you know what I'm saying? And nothing
Hmm.
is worse than being lonely in a crowd. And so that was really, I'd find myself very rootless and very like a kite that's the string broke, just like floating around, like,
Yep.
what am I doing? What am I doing? And am I ever going to settle down? And the longer I was out there on the road, the harder it was to settle down. I didn't know what to do with myself, or and had all these plans, but couldn't really settle down to do anything. And now I finally managed to settle down, and I have no reason to want to leave. So I can't say that I never will, but I really, they're older. My pups,
Hmm.
are all older now. The twins are 16 this year, I think. And so, they're not going to be around forever. And so I
Hmm.
kind of want to be with them as much as I can, because when I'm gone, I just miss them, so, and I'm not going to haul them around because they don't like to be hauled around, and I can't haul around a horse anyway.
No.
So I just like being here. And I worked a lot on this place. I've lived here for over 20 years now. And it's taken a lot of work to make this place what I wanted to, that I could record in the barn. My long-term plans are finally here. They're finally achieved. She's got a good place out there, and it's not as remote as it used to be. The weather's even changed out here. I mean, I was out there battling 50-mile-an-hour winds, trying to
Oh,
keep her warm. Yeah, I was out there, killing rattlesnakes and all kinds of stuff, so, and I don't have to do any of that anymore. We have somebody to call to do that now. But it really, when you hold your own against nature, it really does. It's a different sort of, it's something that you feel this connection with people that really actually, the pioneers, not to be
hmm.
corny about it, but they built this country, the immigrants that built this country and that came here and actually made something out of nothing. Because this is harsh country, the desert, and you've really got to know how to get along and how to take care of yourself and how to take care of the land, and when it's your friend and when it's not your friend, and when, it really does, but it's really something you have to hold your own against nature. That, or even the ocean, or anything. Anybody who grows things, or actually just is close to the land, really understands how you fit into it all. And the sky, even, this is just brilliant. There's all kinds of things, up there that make you feel put you in perspective. You know what I mean? If you've ever stood and, looked up at a meteor shower or whatever, you realize that, wow, this is a pretty intense experience being alive on this planet. It's phenomenal. It's really amazing. And you're at one with the animals, and I'm at one with them. And I have a couple of snakes that come around that are pretty cool. And I have a lizard that waits for me on the porch every time I go out to the barn, and the doves and the rabbits come in the morning for breakfast, and then they'll come in the afternoon, late afternoon, for dinner. And it's just kind of it's remarkable to be a part of it all. Yeah, I'm a Virgo. We're very nature people. Libra cusp,
You,
which is sky people,
I'm a,
in
I'm
between
a,
the earth and the sky.
I'm a Libra, so I'm very much for
I'm a Libra
this
cusp.
is.
When's your
Oh, say
birthday?
yeah, October 2nd.
Oh, okay. All right. So you're
Yep.
in first decan Libra. Okay.
Hmm.
That's good. So you're an air sign. That's cool. I like Libras. My father was
Yeah.
my father was a Libra, my brother was a Libra, and my grandfather. So you had three generations of
Oh
Libras
wow.
on my father's side. I know, and they didn't. None of them could get along for shit more than
Really?
they really had it out. All of them's name were John too. We had Giovanni, who was my grandfather, which is John in Italian. Then we had John, my father, and then we had John, my brother. And
That's
all of them
funny.
were Libras. I know, huh? Isn't that weird?
Especially get along like me being a Libra. I try to get along with everybody. I try to find a balance. I don't like when things aren't
So people
fair. I don't
pleasing.
like bull. I
You're
don't. Yeah, but I also don't like injustice though. I don't like bullies. I also grew up with autism, but now I'm older. I can speak, and if I feel I can speak for other people too. Sometimes that might be too much.
Well, you're you're
You know what I mean?
you're the sign of the scales. That's your symbol.
Yeah.
So you're
Right.
weighing all the
Yep.
time. And injustice in the tarot, the justice tarot card has the scales, and so you're that that air sign, and you have that weighing of the scales. So you want things to be fair, you want everybody to be happy, and you want things good for all people. And people pleasing can really fuck you up too.
It can
So
be
you
tiring.
have, Libras can really lose themselves trying to do that, so that's where you need to keep the balance about it, because not everybody can be pleased no matter how hard you try. And that was a big thing for me too, being the Libra cusp and just really trying to, I'm out here to, I make the music I make, I do what I do, I am who I am, and somebody's going to hate you no matter what. Or as I had, my posse was in New Orleans down at the bottom of the cup tea room, and they're passed away now. And one of my mentors, Otis, who was very, very well known down there for years and years, and he said, "Honey, not everybody's going to like you. Not everybody's supposed to." And
Hmm.
that was, I think of that all the time, because somebody's going to hate you no matter what you do, especially the better you do. Some people
It's
just
hard though,
aren't
isn't it?
happy about their lives. Oh, it's
But
it's
even
it's
knowing, I think that's the
painful, and
hardest thing in my life is to be like, but why? Like, am I not being a good person? Even when
I don't
I'm a good
know.
person, I can separate. No, I'm saying, but like, the point is like when someone says to you, like, you say to yourself, am I not being a good person to them? Am I not aware of something I'm doing? And then when I can get past that, I'm like, no, it's just them. It's a little easier. But I think that's the hardest thing as a person. I think for me,
It
to
is, you just kind of wish. Well, it's hard. It is hard if if you're conscious, if you're a human being. You're like, wow, something must have happened to you. I mean, look at Trump.
right,
You're just like, okay, somebody took your Tonka truck away when you were a kid, or whatever
right,
the fuck. Your mother didn't hug you, so now we all have to fucking suffer. You know what I mean? So it's just like,
yeah,
but
no, it's true. Everyone's
I
behavior.
cannot muster up. I can't muster up any compassion for the man, but I
Mm.
do but I understand, that's like, obviously something's wrong with you, something very serious is wrong with you, and and that's you gotta, it comes from somewhere very deep, but it's just like nothing makes you happy, nothing makes you happy, and so, and that's, the more you have, and the more the closer you feel like you're there. Like, if I have $1 million, I'm going to be happy, all right, and then you have $1 million and you're still not happy, and that's that's a weirdness. That's really, oh, I want to be famous and then I'll be happy. Then everything will be cool. I'll buy this person that and then they'll be happy. Or
Hmm.
I'll buy this person that and then they'll be happy. And no, it doesn't work. And so, that's a painful awareness, but that's true. It's the truth. People have to do that for themselves. If you're not happy with yourself in the first place, as corny as that is, then nobody else can do it for you, period. And that's a very, probably the most common thing, is that we think there's somebody out there that's going to be the one that can make us happy, and then all of a sudden, you just don't know how to accept love. You don't know what it is because you've never had any, so you don't really know what it is, and so you're kind of like, well, wow, what does this mean? It's very, very, deep stuff, that self-awareness. It
Well, it
really
is, but
is.
I mean, but it puts you in a weird spot because, and it actually goes back to something else you said too. People are stuck at a certain time period, and I think when everyone listens to music at a certain time, and they unless you're totally out of your mind like me, who loves
Yeah,
all kinds of music, but
yeah.
so everyone will pick a time and probably like, oh, easily I can say publicly, like just Joey has an easier song everyone knows, or other deeper cut needed, like, and that's their song, and that's the Jeanette that they remember. You're like, I've already traveled so many journeys and shed my gecko skins so many times now. I appreciate that
Yeah.
person and I appreciate where it got me because that helped me get to where I'm at, and all kinds of it opened all kinds of doors for you too. But it also closes certain doors for you because it closes the minds of people that you want to keep growing. And if everyone is always wanting you and sees you as that
Well,
person,
I can appreciate that. I can appreciate that for sure. Um,
but
and
I'm saying
I'm
it's a double
probably
edged sword though.
now. Yeah, well, it is for me, but yeah, I'm close to it. So I
Right.
would feel that way. But there are other things I feel that way about. But like, it actually makes me sad. So that's why I don't have that nostalgia. Sly Stone, when he passed away, I cried.
Hmm.
I did. I played a Sly Stone track and I cried because that's the best show I've ever seen. And I saw it when I was in high school at the Hollywood Bowl in the 1970s. And I've seen a lot of shows, and nothing touches that experience. It was just so amazing. The whole band was just one organic thing, and it was just one beautiful experience, and they were so tight and so good, and the songs were so good, and Sly was so pure at heart. Like, all of his lyrics are truly peace and love, and everybody is a star, and and for a party band, that was the deepest. That to me was the
Mhm.
ultimate. Sly and the Family Stone was the best show I've ever seen. And it just had everything, just everything to ascend. It was just an
Mhm.
ascension. And when I heard that he passed away, and I played a song, and I was leaking tears all over the place, because I'm just like, that was a time, yeah, but it wasn't just my time. It was a time. It wasn't just like, because I was like, oh, I was in high school, and those were the best years of my life. Those were terrible years for me.
I know
It
that
was
might
the
suck.
worst. That was the worst. High school was the
Yeah,
worst, and
I
and
agree with you
I
there. I
did
don't want to
not.
go back ever. People go,
Fuck
look
no,
back.
man.
I'm like, no way. I'm glad
I've
I grew up
never,
past
I've,
that. Ugh,
I've
I'm the
never
same
been to a
way.
reunion. I've never, much love for everybody in high school and all, but I just could not wait to get out of fucking school and, like, really get to life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, my
And
early 20s,
see
I
all the
finally started to feel like
places.
a human. You know.
Yeah,
Oh,
well, I wanted to see these places that they were talking about in art school, in art class and everything, because that's what I wanted to do. And I'm like, fuck, I don't want to I can't go to college, and my parents didn't have any money and didn't encourage me anyway. And, my dad was kind of had that old school, mentality, where it's like, you get married, you have a couple kids. He told me I should have had a couple kids by the time I was 21,
oh,
so it's kind of like a very old country mentality. And so the college thing was not on the table, and the art school thing was not on the table. And so I was like, well, fuck that. I want to go see all these places where Picasso lived. And
yeah.
I ended up hanging out in Paris for quite a long time, and seeing, drinking where they drank, and going to Spain, and all that sort of stuff. I'd rather live the experience than read about it in a book. And music enabled me to do that. And so I feel like that I've done. I've provided myself with the education that I wasn't able to have when I was younger. So I don't really pine for the whole glory days, because there weren't any. But I do
Oh,
pine for an era that was really creative. It was, the 70s, so it was just like, or as a friend of mine who's a journalist, shout out to Michael Simmons. He edits Mojo magazine, and
mhm.
he calls the 70s 60s light. he's
Yeah, that's actually good.
he's
It's pretty
he's
good. I like that. I like
he's
that.
got a few years. He's got a few years on me, but it's just like, I came in, the tail end of the 60s. I was born in 57, so by the time the 60s were over, I was conscious, and I was in junior high and high school. And it was kind of like, but you still had that, I'm watching Soul Train every weekend, and dancing, and you have really good soul on the radio. And that was my first singing, really, was, Gladys Knight and the Pips, and Fly, and the
Well,
Chi-Lites,
music was
and
a lot
just
more diverse, though. I think that's one thing. Without sounding like old, like
yeah, thank you.
I was
Exactly,
born in
exactly.
'70,
There was
and
diversity.
from the five, three, four,
Uh-huh.
five, I was listening to music myself, so diverse from my family and else as a child. So I mean, I was 5, 7, 8. I grew up listening to it. Then nowadays it's not like that.
Were
I
you the
mean, it's just
youngest? Did you have any
only
older
child, only
siblings?
no, only child.
Oh, really? Oh, okay,
Hmm.
okay. Well,
Yep.
yeah, but there was good stuff on the radio, and yeah, the
Oh
70s, it
yeah.
was very, very diverse. There was a lot of stuff going on, a lot of stuff that was, a lot of stuff came together there. And I think that's kind of, everything's changed so much, and nowadays, and so, so that maybe that's what I think when I heard that. I went like, wow, Sly really, he represented something that was, so cool. And there are artists like that now, for sure. There are people
Right.
there's a lot of new artists I like. I discover new artists all the time that I like. Lily Young, who is mind blowing. I was turning people on to her a couple of years ago, and she's been around a while, but she just did Coachella for the first time this year. But she's absolutely fucking mind blowing, and she's really young. And she's
Oh
got
really?
this. She's the real deal, man. She's amazing, and she just sings her ass off, and her songs are just like, she'll definitely give you a chill. She'll make you cry. I love Anderson Paak. I think he's from another planet. There's a live show of the Free Nationals, which is his band,
Hmm.
and uh, Silk Sonic, which is the his what he does with Bruno Mars. I love that because it reminds me of it's a take, it's a take on 70s soul. on the Temptations and stuff like that. And it's just like, they're just, that stuff will kill you. They're just great. But Anderson .Paak is one of the most talented people alive. And so there's stuff that really does blow my mind. Oliver Tree, who is a very quirky guy, and he I think he was like 18 or something when he made his first record, and he's just writes songs that are completely out of control. And he's out of his mind. I don't know if he's autistic. I think he is. But he's older now. He's like 18 or 19, but he's got a real sense of humor, and he's a brilliant writer. And Hippie Sabotage, who I absolutely love, and they
I think you just shared
I
about them, right? Recently. I think you posted
I
something about them
did,
because I think
yeah,
I
yeah,
just checked them out
yeah,
actually. I dig what I saw. I checked them out off your post. I was like, who's this?
yeah, I
I
drove
love
three
I love
hours to see them.
recommendations. Yeah,
I drove 3 hours to see them. That's the last live show I've ever seen, and that was it right? It was right before COVID, and I saw their tour schedule, and they were going to Europe, and their European tour schedule was so brutal that I'm going to see these guys now, because if they don't make it through that tour, I want to say that I saw them. And so I go, these guys have no idea. And so I drove all the way to I think Riverside or something, and saw them, and came back at 3 in the morning up the mountain to Joshua Tree, and saw a ghost on the highway. It was so weird.
really.
And yeah, but they were brilliant. They were just, and they had a good vibe too, because they're two brothers, and the guy plays guitar live, but then the brother kind of hops around and does some singing and DJing and all that. So it's not like a band, but
You're right.
they are so good. They're so talented. And everybody was just like, we're golden, living like we're golden. It's just that they've got that whole like wandering young spirit, like that whole Burning Man thing. I've been to Burning Man twice. First time was great, second time was terrible. And but it's all about the journey. It's all about the wandering and the seeing the world and the freedom and the whole thing. And oh God, they're just so good. But they had that whole fusion, that hip hop fusion too. They're like two. When I first heard them, I thought maybe they're English, or something like that. And then I found out there's like these two white guys these brothers from up north in California. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. These kids don't sound anything like anything from California. But then, they have that whole surf. They surf, they're like hip hop surfers or something, and they're
Really.
amazing. They could chop a track together that would just kill you. And they have a lot of really great collaborations with good singers. And I discovered them on the Trip Hop channel on YouTube, on Trap, actually, on the Trap Nation. And I like trap music, and so I had trap going all day, and I'm like, oh my God, these Hippie Sabotage guys have just got to I've got to fucking figure out their shit and see what they're about. And they're just, oh my God, they're just mind-blowingly good. And they get around, I think their last stuff was recorded in Hawaii, and they got up to the bus that was, into the wild, where that kid went up and died in that bus or whatever. And they
Yep.
made that movie with Sean Penn. They made the movie, and the book was great. I like the book better than the movie, but it was just, they went up there and they shot a video
I
there,
agree
and
with you.
just
I
like
read the book and I saw the movie too. I read the book first and I saw the
I
movie.
know. I didn't even finish the movie. I just didn't like it, and I was on a plane. So I mean, if you don't finish a movie on a plane, you really got to not like it.
You really
Because,
you get nowhere to go, really. Oh, Medea's family again. Ah, I'm gonna jump out the window.
Jesus, I know. You're like, God. I mean, you're a captive audience, for God's sake.
I know, right? Oh, that's awful.
Jeez,
Yeah, but
I know.
it's crazy. What about you doing collaborations with a band like that? Would it be them or something similar?
I wrote them. I hit them up, and they didn't get back to me because you're surrounded by managers and stuff like that, and I have no cred in with young people. Basically, what do they want me for? So I think they did something with Halsey, which I didn't like very much, but I can appreciate it. And they've done
But
stuff
you're a
with.
musician. They're
Uh,
not, you can't just say they're just young people. They're also musicians, and that puts them in a different league of
Yeah,
being
but you
aware of
can't.
other
They have
talented
you have
musicians.
so much. Yeah, at that age, and they had so much. They had management. They had, I could see at the show. I was at the show, and they had somebody, and young people. That's why you have to pay attention to what's going on. Somebody, whether it was from the promoter or whether it was their manager, And I think it was the promoter because I've seen this guy around before, and some young guy, and he went into the booth where the sound guy was and where the lighting guy was with a
Hmm.
joint and and he was giving it all to the crew. And I'm
Oh
like,
wow.
man, oh man, yeah, you don't do that. And I was just like, man, these guys are gonna get ripped off because they're,
Oh,
they're just if they've got a manager that's doing that, they're going to get ripped off. And the crew, like, what are they going to do? Say no? It's the manager or whatever. I think it was the promoter though. But I'm kind of like, you got to go through that. You don't know what it is until you learn what it is. And then when you figure out what's going on, it's just kind of like, ah, shit.
I think if you
You've
can
probably
sidestep the
done your
managers on
best
that in a
stuff.
case like that, the trick is just get if you can sidestep
Yeah.
it, if you can get in front of the artist, and I think I've learned that it's not really because the artists are when you give them the opportunity to make their own decision, it's usually a lot different. I mean, because that's your insulation, your buffer is
Yeah,
what the other people do.
sometimes it's not for the best. Sometimes it's
Right.
not for,
It's
depend. There's no set formula for any of
that
this.
right.
Some
Who
people
can
aren't going to
filter for
make it
you?
that far.
Right.
Exactly, exactly. But sometimes you can't. Sometimes there are people that I shouldn't have been hanging around. That a lot. I had a manager tell me, look, people take advantage of you, and there's nothing I can do about it. And he was absolutely
Mhm.
right because I'd be like, fuck you, this is my friend, but that wasn't my friend. So it's kind of like you're kind of trying. It's a very shaky place to be, and you can't keep track of everything when everything's all over the place and there's a million people or whatever and you're just trying to do your music. It really is a drag to have to keep track of all that stuff. And you don't want to do it. That's not what you want to do. But if you don't, you're going to get something's going to get screwed up. And if then you find out that, oh my God, so you've been ripped off this much money or whatever. And but that's okay because everybody, if you don't go through that, then you don't, you'll never wake up, and you don't want to, be the, it's a there's a lot of things, there's a lot of moving parts, put it that way.
Right.
So you can have as much of it or as little of it as you want, but you have to know yourself first, what you can handle, and what comes along with the territory, and like, the stalkers and the haters and all that sort of stuff, that's fine. But there's people out there that I love to touch, and that I love that get the music. There's one little girl who sends me her paintings from Australia,
Aw.
and her little paintings are inspired by my songs, and I'm so touched by that, and I love writing her back. And her mother wrote to me and snuck a letter in one of the little packages and said, I just want you to know that my daughter, she's disabled, and that she really, loves it. I just want to thank you for taking an interest in her art and encouraging her and all that. That is what it's all about for me.
Hmm.
That's what it's all about. I'm comfortable. I don't live like a million, I don't have a mansion, but by God, I've got 5 acres, and I've got my horse, and I've got land dedicated to wildlife. So, maybe that didn't mean as much, 20 years ago as it does now, but with all the development and everything going on now, I'm really glad that I have that land dedicated for wildlife, because now I'm starting to see that, things I don't, the tortoises are endangered now, and I used to see them. The burrowing owls that aren't here, they're endangered now, I think, or they're close to being on the list. And there's things now that I'm glad that I kept that land clear for, and I had to fight to do it too. So, and I've, people, I have developers calling me all the time. They don't bother me as much anymore because I have an outgoing message on my phone that says, if you're a developer or a real estate agent, there's nothing for sale here. But on paper, you're a
I
68 year
love
old
that.
woman who has 5 acres, and you look like easy pickings. I mean, it's kind of like, so I had to really stand my ground here for a very long time, but now that it's changed, it could have gone either way out here. And I have new neighbors now that have horses themselves, and the people gave up on the Airbnb next door because I wasn't making it very easy for them to have one. And so I think they've sold that to a permanent. Yeah, I was a pain in the ass, too fucking bad. So,
That would make me crazy. I
I
wouldn't
mean,
want that
because,
either near me.
well, no, but especially, when the old people, they really just wish we would all die out because, then they could just, get the land or whatever, and there isn't
Yeah.
enough of it to go around. And there was a map on that I saw on Reddit the other day, and I took a screenshot of it that had all the Bureau of Land Management and the Forestry Service land that's up for sale. And it hit me really hard. I'm still like just very like, no, you got to be fucking kidding. And the way they're doing, Trump's a developer. The minute he
Hmm.
won, all the shit hit the fan. All of a sudden, permits are being given to anybody for anything. There's, all kinds of, conservation efforts are being. I mean, they fired
They'll
everybody at the
always, yeah,
national parks, and
everything was
so
restricted. So
right,
I
that's
do think
right, and
there's,
everybody is.
and if you're a fan of nerdy history like I am, this always happens, but we've never happened in
Yes.
our generations, like us, especially being so prosperous and moving so forward. I mean, we move so forward so fast in our lifetime, you and I, because I'm born in '70s. So I mean, there's not a huge difference. We both experienced such
Well,
growth
here's what
in
we've
people
had
and
we've
rights.
had the
You know what I'm
internet.
saying? Right, but
Look what happened when they tried to shut down TikTok. They said no, well, fuck you, TikTok, and the kids all said, well, we'll go to the Chinese version of TikTok. And
mhm,
what happened? They came back and said, how come we can't buy a little pink electric car for eight thousand
mhm,
dollars or whatever it is? Wait a minute! All of a sudden, because of the internet, people are seeing that the rest of the world isn't. They're not. Oh wait, the Chinese aren't assholes. We played China, I mean, it was like I jumped at the chance to play China. And it was like, it was
mhm,
breathtaking. It was just the most beautiful country you could ever hope to see. Thousands of year old carved barges floating in lakes and stuff. And just like, you're like, oh my God, this is just, it brought tears to my eyes. The old people are dancing every Sunday with the old instruments and kind of like, oh my God. And there was nothing but an environment of peace. I mean, I'm romanticizing anything, but I mean, that's as close to like I mean, it was just beautiful. It was gorgeous and green and just really just beautiful. The just the car,
mhm.
the art of everything was just really really beautiful. And they had it together, man. That airport was like state of the art. It was just all happening, and it was kind of like, we know now that not everybody, not, like, there's other stuff that's great that's going on. We know that, there's places where people get taken care of when they're sick, and they're not like losing their homes because they have to pay
Right.
medical bills. And we know, so we're not, you can fool some of the people some of the time, basically, and it's too late for that. These kids are too smart. They've been exposed to too much. And I really think that wave has really built, has really, it's a swell. And these kids don't want to go to war. These kids don't want
No,
to fucking go to
you can't
war.
roll it back.
And
What they're trying to do, you're not
no,
doing a roll back. I think you've definitely put
and
a
they're
stop
so
on it because
romantic about it.
I don't think people were
They're so
aware of
romantic about their tanks and shit.
yeah, but I think everyone
Sorry, I'm
wasn't
talking
so
over you.
aware of all the holes in the politics that could be done to change things. I don't think everyone was that aware it was that easy. I think that was the biggest surprise. There's too many people that want something different that are being affected now. You know, families that we're going to do it are
Or
being
they
torn
see,
apart. And it's
other
yep,
people being affected. They see their family being affected. They see their
mhm,
grandma being affected. They see their,
right. Well, once it
and
affects
you
you, it's
can't
different.
do that.
I
Yeah,
think once it
that's
affects
right.
you,
That's
and
right.
that's why people voted for, and they do for just I could say for anybody. If you vote for that person, it's because your life, you grew up in that life, and that one thing is affecting your life horribly. And it might not have been about hating anything else, but maybe they voted because they're farms, or they thought it was going to be like one thing that keeps their family alive. You know, but then when the rules change again, it's not just affecting you. If you can't think outside of yourself, you know. I'm like, to me, I'm at least affected. I definitely didn't want that to happen to anybody. I'm like, I don't want that to happen to anybody. you know, I don't think it's good for you. And I was
Well,
paying
if
attention.
you,
You know,
I know that my grandmother is Russian. In spite of my name, most of my DNA is Ukrainian, and my
hmm
grandmother was Russian, like 100%. My father's mother, and
hmm
my mother's people are German, French German. So her maiden name is German. But I know my German ancestors and my Russian ancestors and my Italian ancestors. So I'm
hmm
10% Italian. That's on my father's side, obviously, and my uncle, my great uncle. Luigi wrote an anti-Mussolini poem in the 20s, and so I know that my ancestors did not flee dictators so that I would have to be here now and live under a dictator. That's just not why they came here, you know. So I mean, there's that too. When all this anti-immigrant stuff, well, we are all immigrants, unless your last name is like Red Cloud, then we're all fucking
right.
immigrants, So I mean, and if you're aware, have that awareness, in spite of the fact that they try to, process all of the old country out of you when you come here, if there was enough for us to have in common, which there is, but we can't lose who we are. We can't ignore our DNA and wind up with no souls, and a lot of the times that's what solves the problem. How many old country ways in medicine are good, or home remedies, or folk remedies, or even
Hmm.
music, or ways to grow things, or make things, or cook, or whatever. I mean, all those things people are interested in, and that's why a tradition
That was
is
one of the best
important.
things about New York, when everything had its own little town, because you could go there and
Yes,
appreciate it.
yes,
That was one of my favorite
yeah,
things,
yeah,
especially when I was growing up. I mean,
yeah,
it's changed a lot now, but you still have that part. But I'm saying, but like, little Chinatown, you get Italian, like everyone had an area
yeah, yeah,
where the
yeah,
culture was so
yeah,
strong
yeah.
and the food was so good, and the food was so good.
That's who
So
we
it's really,
are.
that's America today. It's everybody,
It,
and
that's it is. Yeah. Oh,
that's
we
a
sound so
huge.
patriotic, don't we?
We do. I have
Yes.
flags going up, be blowing behind me here. I don't usually get too political, because I think that the thing is,
That's
you really
all
I gotta
right.
be.
It's all
No, it
it's
is,
all
because
good.
I think everybody needs to meet in the middle. Because I think if you're yelling at somebody, and that's why I don't ever talk about politics. Because if you yell at somebody about something, you're gonna block it, even whether you think you're right or wrong. You know what I'm saying? If I'm yelling at you and
Yes.
calling you a
Yeah.
name, you're not gonna listen to anything I say. But if I say, "Why do you feel
Well,
this way?" and you explain it,
where they're crossing a line, they're crossing a line when they're starting to break up families and things like that.
oh
People are
right, no,
starting
I'm
to.
not even
I saw
justifying it. I'm just
something
saying,
today.
but if you engage
Yeah.
in a conversation by just insulting somebody, no one's
Well,
ever getting anywhere. It's
it's
just gonna be a big battle.
Sean. It's like speaking a language. I can't involve myself in a conversation with somebody who doesn't speak the language.
Right.
So, and I'm a musician, and that's the one thing that I could do. And I love flamenco. Okay, but I never, I didn't understand for many, many years what, I've studied flamenco for 30 something years, and I went to Spain and studied it and everything. And I was
That's
so
pretty
drawn
awesome.
to flamenco that I never understood what they were saying, but I sure felt it. And I
Hmm.
think that is one of the great things that I like being, that I appreciate about being a musician. And we went to China, and they actually knew every word of everything, which was really weird.
Yeah.
But to be able to connect with people that don't speak your language, well, that's where the commonality is.
Hmm.
I mean,
And I don't think
and
that
I
everybody's going to agree with
appreciate
you either
that.
by any means. You know what I'm saying? I don't think I'm not doe-eyed where I think like everyone's going to agree, but I'm saying if there's a potential for a conversation, there's always
Oh
hope.
yeah, of
You know
course.
what I mean?
Well,
That's you get enough of the smart people
people.
to talk.
Well, people, there's once again that gets back to like, why are you yelling at me, and why are you angry? What are you
Hmm.
afraid of? If you're afraid of somebody different, if you're afraid of somebody who doesn't look like you, or if you're afraid of somebody who, who is from somewhere else. People are afraid of what they don't know. And so once you take that time, and you understand that we're all human. I mean, that's the whole thing, is that we're all fucking human beings, and we've got to live here on this planet. This is where we all live, and so kumbaya. No, it's not never going to be that way. Paul Thompson, who's just the greatest drummer in the world, and I was
Hmm.
lucky enough to play with him for a while. Roxy Music and all that, but he used to, when I'd get all worked up about things, he used to say, Jeanette, if there were two people left in the world, they'd be fighting.
Oh, that is so
And
true.
he may be right.
Oh,
Because
totally.
women
They'd be
and
fighting over
men
something.
have many differences.
Yeah, probably something in the Bible about I mean, you fighting over the river or something. Probably someone didn't put the toilet seat down or something. There's got to be some kind of something somewhere that didn't show up. There's always
Yeah,
going to be
yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
And
that's pretty
I
funny.
like them. I mean, it's yin and yang, man. I mean, people complement each other too. Our differences are what
Hmm.
makes the whole work. You know what I mean? It's kind of like there's I appreciate that, unless it's really annoying. But it's not even annoying. It's kind of like this is what makes it interesting. I don't want to be around a bunch of people that are exactly like me, God forbid. And not it's about tolerance and appreciation, and learning from each
Oh
other,
yeah, I agree.
so
I don't
it's
want to be worried
hard
anybody
for
like
me.
me. I would go crazy. There are times I can't even stand myself, and I feel like if I'm editing this show, I'm like, oh my god, if I see myself, like I don't even, oh, yeah, I get tired of myself.
Oh, no,
But
no,
imagine being
no,
around other
no,
people.
no. You gotta like yourself, Sean. You gotta
I do
like
like
yourself.
myself. I like myself,
That's
but
the
I don't need to
first thing.
redouble. I don't need to double dip. I don't need to see myself twice. I'm already living it.
I like myself most of the time. Most of the time. But at least I know now when and why I don't like myself and what I don't like about myself. I think that's something too. I didn't have that self-awareness
Right.
really until now, and I know when I'm doing something I shouldn't be doing, and I know when I'm being an asshole, and I know, so
That's
I'm
different than what I
kind
was
of
saying.
proud
'Cause,
of that.
I'm saying
Huh?
I don't like this. I don't like to see, to me, I don't like, I guess like a me, because I already know my next journey. So if I'm rewatching something I did, I already know the journey in my brain. If I can drive, the joke of the film is I take shortcuts instead of a shortcut because I like going different ways all the time. You know, even if there's a
Shortcuts.
common path. Yeah, so it's taking a shortcut because
It's funny.
I always, if you drive the same way, it's so boring. So I always try doing something different if I can. If I just, even to shake it up, even if it's a mistake, you know what I mean? So to me, reliving something I just did feels, unless it's like I've forgotten about it with my horrible memory, you know what I mean? But that's just why, that's what I meant. Like I'm okay with myself. At this point in my life, I'm fine.
Yeah, yeah, come on.
But to relive stuff all
Don't
the
you can't
time
be
is
you
no.
can't be too hard on yourself either,
I'm okay with myself
and
actually.
yeah, yeah,
I'm
so that's a
okay.
nice feeling. That's a nice feeling, actually. I'm like, okay, I did good. I did okay. I did good. If I really sit
Well,
back
I
and
mean, if
go
you wake
like,
up and look in
okay,
the
I did
mirror
good.
and did your best, even if you made a mistake, like I don't feel bad as a parent because
There
I'm
are
like
no
I know
mistakes.
I've done my best.
There
Well,
are no
I
mistakes.
you could use the music thing. If you make a mistake in music, you just do it twice. So if I make a mistake parenting, I'll just do it twice.
No,
Once is an
I don't
accident,
buy
twice is
that.
on purpose. No,
That's
that's a
going
joke.
going too
That's a
far.
that's a
That's
joke.
going
Come
too
on.
far.
You know the
I
joke
know
of
it
the
is.
playing
I've heard it
guitar.
before. I've heard
So
it
the
before.
joke would
No,
be
I
that.
don't. Yeah, that's that. Believe me, I've heard it. I've heard that, but only from musicians who were failures.
Well,
So
that would be the
that's
joke of how funny I
yeah.
think that comment is.
I know, but I can't let that slide without
Yeah,
people
that's
knowing that
okay.
I don't approve.
No,
I don't.
if you knew me,
But
I'm the
you know what I
biggest
do.
supportive
What I
of
do
my
find to be
kids.
true is it? Oh yeah, you got kids.
I am.
But the one of the
Oh
things
yeah.
that I do believe in is that comparison is the thief of joy. That's one of the
Hmm.
things that I really had to learn. Is that like you can't really look at what anybody else is doing. You've just kind of got to pay attention to what you do
Hmm.
and what you know your best is, and that's okay because people will do that. They'll compare you to other people, and then you'll go, am I doing as well as so and so, or should I
Right.
be, should I have a bigger house? Should I be doing this? Am I wearing the right thing that everybody else is wearing? That's like what makes you crazy when you're young, but like comparison is the thief of joy, or I think the comparison is the enemy of something. I can't remember. Comparison destroys contentment as well, but that's a big one too. So it's kind of like, no, I'm cool, in this very
I
moment
struggle
I'm
with that
cool. Like,
sometimes. Every now and then I struggle that
yeah,
way. That's
everybody
one of the
does.
for
I think
me because I
most
feel like
people do.
if I'm comparing myself, I'm like, am I just not being the best I am? And by comparing, I'm like, maybe I'm not trying to
Yes.
be my best person. And then I overanalyze it. Then I'm
No.
like, no. But then I go back and forth. I'm like, all right, what I'm doing is I'm comparing, and I'm not seeing if I'm being a better person. But that's probably my biggest weak point. You know, where I'll do that
Or
is just
competing, it was very competitive. Well, you have to be when you're younger, you're competitive, you want to, there's a lot of competition. But then you get
yeah.
older, and like, I was talking to my engineer Brian, who does a lot of mixing and mastering for me. He's also a very good friend for many, many years. We have that Leon Russell connection. He was Leon's guitar player for a while, and he said, and I said, the only I said, I can't compete with myself. I said, I can't go out there and compete with my 30-year-old self if I'm doing a
Hmm.
show or whatever like that. I can't do. And he said, that's exactly what Prince said. And I was like, oh, good. Well, if Prince said it, then damn. All right, that's cool. But it's right. It's true. It's like you get older, and the only competition you have is your younger self at the end of the day. And it's just like it's physically just not possible to do that. You can't
Hmm.
you can't really do that. I mean, it's a physical thing. You can't go out and I'm not going to try to prove that I can, because that's when it really gets kind of sad and pathetic. You just look at somebody and just like, well, maybe you should have hung it up. That's a hard thing to learn, because some people, if you're a blues artist, you can go out there and you can be 90 years old and do a really good show. But if you're, there's some people that really I'd rather not see up there anymore, in some certain genres. More power to anybody who's still able to do what they do.
No, but
But
one of the things
a
I come
lot of
across is
people,
if you were singing higher notes, you would pace yourself. It's a lot harder
yeah,
nowadays.
exactly. It's like it's all about, if you can't hit that high note anymore,
Yeah, that
yeah,
affects
you
the
could
rock
all
genre the
tune
most.
down, but like that's when Yeah, it is.
You know,
Unfortunately,
but
it's just like,
if that was your
ooh, I
song,
don't
if you were a
really,
song in that
you know,
key and then you're hearing it
yeah,
different,
uh, yeah, or
that's
I've
the
seen
downside.
somebody. I had this discussion with somebody recently. It's kind of like I saw them back in in the day, and I don't really want to see them again. I'm like, I don't
Yep.
want to see them again because there's no way they're going to be as good as they were then. Period. So it's like I'd rather remember that than actually go out and see them. And I don't really need that. That's like going to a museum and seeing somebody at that point. And I just don't really care to do that, and I
Yeah.
don't care to be that either for anybody. I'd like to figure out, who am I now? What do I have to say? And if I'm happy, that's cool. And when people come around and say like, you were so much better when you were miserable. And I'm like, well, then that's fine. But guess what? I would rather be happy and be
You
not
were
as good.
miserable. I'm like, you're a horrible person for saying that.
Yeah, it's true. People are like, it's so much better and I have to say there people were so much better when they were fucked up and doing stuff like, you're just kind of like not caring so much or or preoccupied with yourself or self-centered or self-involved or just whatever angst-ridden, I guess is the deal, or whatever it is. But it's life is fascinating. Let's just put it that way. Oh, great.
I really
Well,
enjoyed
thank
it.
you. That was.
Thank you
I'm starting to talk
for
to people now.
well, I'm glad I could be one
Very
of them. And
selectively.
well, I'm glad I could be one of them. Thank you for the time. I always take it as a gift of anybody, whether it's a musician or just anybody I know. So we're able to give time and listen and to share opinions and that's one of the few gifts we can give people because time is the only thing we don't get back. And
That's right. That's
you don't
very
have a bank
true.
full of time, so
That's very
you
true.
know. So I appreciate
Well,
that
I
on that level.
appreciate your enthusiasm, and I appreciate your appreciation and your enthusiasm and you in general. Very kind
Well,
person.
thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay.
You have a great day, and then people listening,
You
check out
too.
the music, the site. I'll put the links underneath for people to go check
Thank
out your
you.
stuff, support you. Okay, you have
Thank
a
you
great
very
day.
much. Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate
Okay,
it.
bye bye.
Okay.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.
Bye.